and welcome to KEC TV. I'm your host, Regan Jacobs, and you're tuning in today on our very first podcast, where we're going to be talking to Adriana, also known as Addie Poulette. And we're going to be talking about your new research and ethics policy under the KEC and why, what happened? Why did you guys need to do this? I know there's a story here. So tell me a little bit about why you guys needed this research policy. Like, all of a sudden, years and years go by and people want to collaborate, I heard.
Absolutely. So with the research policy, they actually just hired me last year in October, and as the education research coordinator. And that's also a new position. Mm-hmm. So that comes hand in hand with the policy. So the policy came about because, really beforehand, people were coming to the KEC and asking for research partnerships, or, they wanted to do research. And I mean, this is all different kinds of research, mm-hmm. With staff or, with students. And there was really no outline as to the rules and the protocols.
Like who can collaborate.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was nothing really officially written. So this was something that came about because of that. So it was really a need for the KEC to have something written down to explain sort of the procedures and how to go about partnering with the KEC. And one of the things too is that one of the main principles is that research should be something, when it's working with the KEC, it's something that the KEC should also be co-creating or co-designing. Right. So that's also in there. That's one of the most important parts, is that it's research that benefits the KEC. It should meet the mandate of the KEC, and it should really, be beneficial to the children, to the staff, to the community, all of that. And so really sometimes you get research requests and it doesn't fit. Yeah. So when that happens, this also, says, okay, well, we're not going to do that right now. We're not. I'm sorry, it doesn't fit our mandate. It doesn't fit what we want to do with the KEC, with the schools, and so thank you, but no. Yeah. And so do people get mad about that? Well, I'm sure if they popping over. I'm sure if they came with an idea and it was shot down, they wouldn't be too happy about it. But this really outlines the process for that. And I think before, even principals and staff, people come with requests and they want to do research with the schools. They don't even know where to start. What do I do? What kind of questions do I ask? And so this outlines a lot of that. And really, sometimes human resources are scarce. So we don't have enough people to be doing all of these research projects. You need people to oversee these big Absolutely.
research projects.
And so sometimes part of the process in there too is deciding we can't do all of these things. So which ones are the ones that fit us best, mm-hmm. and that we really want to do, and then let's move forward with those ones.
Yeah. Now, do you guys have a sliding scale of who you're going to choose, or what's your criteria for making a decision around selecting somebody to collaborate with, and who do you get? Who approaches you guys?
So I don't know if there's a sliding scale, but there is, we do have a mandate with the KEC. So there are things that the KEC wants to move forward with, a strategic plan. Right. And so we want the research to reflect that and to support that. So that's really where we sort of base a lot of our decisions. We also want to be community driven. So, we definitely do support community members and their research projects, students from the community that are pursuing post-secondary. We want to support all of those people first and foremost. And so it's really not so much a sliding scale, but really about sort of focusing on the mandate and focusing on sort of what we want to accomplish with the KEC.
Right. Well, that makes sense. I mean, do you have a lot of people that are requesting to collaborate on research projects every year? What is the number that you would get?
Yeah, so it depends. Right now with COVID, it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So obviously there's a lot of limitations with COVID, the interactions between people. So it's a little bit more limited now, but I'm not really sure before I actually started working with the KEC how many research requests they have, but since I've been with them, we've had quite a few. And the thing is too, is that when you talk about research, there's like big research. So capital R research, which is like, a researcher from the university, big data collection, publishing, and all of those extras that come along with that sort of research. And then there is services and projects that aren't really about publishing and creating new data, but it's about gathering information, like how many participants participated in this program. And then there's a report associated with those sorts of activities. And the thing is too, is that when we read those reports, we want them to be strength-based approach, so focusing on the strengths of the community, strengths of the KEC.
Yeah, because it's representing.
Absolutely. And so we don't want to have anything, how we want it to be a strength-based approach. Yeah. So focusing on all the positives and the good things about the KEC, the students, the staff, and the community. So that's definitely something too. So those things are also part of that, under that umbrella of research. So because they do collect data on a small scale. So those sorts of things need to be monitored as well. Yeah. So my role too is to look over those things, those activities and those projects and services, and to see what sort of information that they're requesting in terms of data, and what are they doing with that data. And then
what are they doing? Because I've heard other communities too, and I don't know if it was here, but I know I've heard in the past that when some of these research teams, they didn't even have access, the communities didn't even have access to their data, and they didn't know where it went and what they did with it. So that's a really important
and that's also
portion.
Also in there too. So it's about community control, community ownership. All of those things are within the policy. So we want to make sure that it's really research that we want and we control and we have oversight over, so that we know everything that's going on. That's one of the things that I've learned in the whole year that I've been working here is that the most important thing is that everybody knows what's going on. So in terms of the principals, the staff, the support staff, so all the staff at the KEC, and then the parents and students and the community. Everyone needs to know what's going on. So
that level of transparency.
Absolutely. For sure. And it makes people more comfortable, and they know that there's somebody, not just one person, myself, but there's a whole advisory committee that is looking over the research that is coming into the KEC and deciding whether it's one, safe, two, positive, and three, going to support the mandate of the KEC. So really all positive moving forward. And that's really how we want to go about things with this policy.
Well, it sounds really well done. Okay, so we can end on a good note, a high note. Of course, we want to talk a little bit about the implementation or the application. Implementation would be good, but when somebody's looking to apply, what is that process like? Yeah,
so when someone, a researcher, whether they're from the community or whether they're from outside the community, and even, researcher is a difficult term to explain, because it could be that individual that's associated with the university. It could be just someone looking to do something. So when you want to partner with the KEC, what you first have to do is you have to contact the Education Research Coordinator, which is me currently.
Got it. Thanks.
Me first.
Great.
And then you would contact me, and then I would send you some forms. So we have some background forms where you discuss your idea, and we like to call it an idea because moving forward, when you research partner with the KEC, it's a co-creation. So it's a co-development, co-design. So we get to help you design your project. So you'll come to us with an idea, and then we'll help develop it. If we like it, it's perfect. It's a yes, let's move forward. Awesome, that's great. And then if there's some things that we want to tweak, we'd like it better if it was like that. We get to do that with
that
you.
Feedback, you're able to say we want.
Because we want it to, like I said, fit the mandate and be positive for the KEC and the community. From there, you would meet with the advisory committee, and that's a group of individuals, mostly from the KEC, but there are other community members that have the expertise and the background in terms of research. So you would meet with them, and so we discuss that idea and do that sort of co-creation, go back and forth in terms of what the project could look like. And then from there, if it's a yes, like I said, great, nothing to change, let's move forward, we move forward. If it's a no or not right now, because there's the possibility that like I said, we're exhausted.
It's not the right time.
We're exhausted in terms of human resources. Right now, people are very overloaded with the extras that they have to do because of COVID. So, human resources are limited. So, sometimes projects could be great and fit the mandate and everything, but we just don't have the human resources to do it right now. So maybe we'll say not right now. And then there's, the potential that there's a project that comes and it's way out in left field, doesn't fit us, no one wants to do it. So it's a solid no.
Give me an example. I need to know.
I don't know. I couldn't even give you an example because it hasn't come up since I've been here.
It's confidential. I can't do it. Okay.
But yeah, so there can be a hard no, but for the most part, it's we like to go back and forth. If it's a yes, you get a subcommittee. So then the subcommittee is created. That subcommittee is populated by individuals that have expertise in that area. So currently we have a traditional foods cooking program that came through this ethics process. That's at Nuha. And they have a subcommittee that is in charge of overseeing sort of the program and the research attached to it. And what happens is that's populated by the greenhouse facilitator.
I feel like I saw some of that over the summer too, right?
Yes.
It played out a little bit on social media.
Yeah, it was actually, I don't know if we want to go into all the details, but it's Gajistaguio's, Jocko's project. That project, it's got a few little blips in here, and I think I heard that you were going to be talking to her, maybe?
Yeah.
So it's great, and it's a great project, and it did go through the ethics process, and she does have a subcommittee. So she's got the greenhouse facilitator on there, Gatarduni, myself, just because I am sort of the coordinator of that, Zohahio Diom, some people that can really contribute to the creation of that program and sort of oversee it. And you get that subcommittee, and that subcommittee will follow you for the life of your project. So for as long as your project is going through the university or whatever, that subcommittee will follow and guide you, give you feedback, whatever you need. And it's there as like a check and balance too. So it's really there to, if you have questions, is this okay? Is that okay? I would like to do this. The subcommittee is there to, give you that feedback. Yeah. And so the KEC always knows what's going on in terms of the research projects that are currently happening in the schools.
That's fantastic. And we're going to wrap it up. But I think we could talk forever. But if I just look at just that one project, and I think what a wonderful group of people to be able to work and collaborate with. So anybody who's coming on under this umbrella and within some of these research, projects, and they have access to some of these phenomenal individuals like Gatarduni and Zohahio, and they have just this wealth of knowledge, lucky them, you know what I mean? And but I totally could see why those types of projects are more interesting than maybe some others, I have a ton of questions, and I think some of them are more suited for Gatarduni and Waifu, so I'm not going to let you steal their thunder, Addie.
I just keep talking, I'm sorry.
But I will close with just anything else you think it's important to add, or?
No, the only thing I can think of is that I just want to make sure that everybody is, aware of the policy. It's available on the website, the KEC website. It's posted on there. It's available for hard copy if anyone wanted to have a hard copy. And we're just really happy that it's moving forward, and we have this great document, and it really is really helping in terms, I've only heard good things from the principals and from the staff and from researchers that we're talking to about how this has really helped them move their project forward. They get the feedback that they want, and the principals and the staff, they get that security of knowing, these things have been looked over, there's oversight.
Yeah.
And also sometimes too, they're too busy to be looking into these things.
Yeah,
some of the projects that come into the principals have so much work on their plates that they don't have time to look into these things, but it's something that they want.
Yeah.
So they just have to direct it to me, and then I'll do that background work, and then we'll move forward, and I'll help them move forward. And that's happened a few times already this year too. Yeah. So it seems to be really working, and everyone's really positive about it. So
great. And I get the principals have so much work. I mean, I work with those ladies on occasion, and I see that their plates are full to the max. So I'm sure the organization is grateful to have you on board, and it seems like you're doing a wonderful job. So thank you so much for coming in today.
Yeah.
I know we could keep going, but we're going to wrap it up, and that's it. So thanks for watching KEC TV, the podcast.
I've never been on a podcast. I'm super excited.
This is our first one, so I'm kind of like winging it here a little bit. But we're going to be doing more in the future. So hopefully when your colleagues bounce into studio in the next week or so, we can get the rest of the story about this research policy. It seems like pretty important for the education center. So now we'll go.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're back, and you're tuning in today to the KEC TV podcast, and now joining us in studio is Gataruni Stacy, and she is the curriculum team coordinator at the Kahnawake Education Center, so welcome.
Hi.
Okay, so today, of course, if you're joining us earlier, we were talking about this new curriculum development, or it's a policy development around people wanting to collaborate in research processes with the Kahnawake Education Center. So you guys had a team, from what I understand, of individuals working to bring this to life. Give me a little bit of details, like how I know Adriana talked about the process, but when you guys were looking at developing it, what were some of the reasons why the policy was needed?
So the policy, we had a really good group working on it. We had Waifu White Bean, Daniela, who is currently a McGill student and doing her PhD, nice. And myself.
Okay.
So the three of us worked on it diligently for I'd say about 9 months since when the pandemic started. Mm-hmm. We had to kind of regroup, and Wahesu's role, she's a research assistant. Mm-hmm. So our project got delayed a little bit, so this was something we focused on, so we kind of switched gears a little bit. So we were able to really focus on this project, and it was something that we've wanted at the KEC for many years, seeing that we have so many partnerships, universities, students who would love to do research with the KEC. So a lot of times we get many requests from different organizations to do research, and so what we really wanted to do is have a process to really vet, well, what's a good project for us? What are we interested in as a community, mm-hmm. as the KEC? And what are our responsibilities and the best ways to ensure our teachers are protected, our students, and our community? When we look at research in the past, in Indigenous communities anywhere, it's been really, I guess, marred with some questionable activities, and so it makes research feel like something that is just not for us. Yeah. But in our way, as Ungwahungwe, we always had research in our lives. It was always exploring whatever it may have been, if it from the environment to our ways of doing things and being together in a community or society. We're always really inquisitive in that way. So now we have a label and we call it research, but so now to have a policy, this policy is really helping to really ask the right questions, to really ensure it's research by us and for us. So we define what it is, what our interests are, and really look at, some goals we have. And so it's not catering to other people's interests and needs, it's ourselves. So we set that for ourselves. And at the same time, there's such a big increase in Ungwehue scholars from our own community here in Kahnawake, but as well as other communities who might be studying in a local university, more like in, maybe it's Concordia or McGill. So now if we have a policy, then we have a way that they know like the steps that are needed to engage with community and what the expectations are. So we have high expectations of anybody coming to work in our community with us. But it's really kind of like, it really is a give and take. Like we're sharing for some of ourselves, some of our story as a community with somebody who is pursuing an interest or a degree. However, whatever work that they carry out we ensure that it's a benefit to our community. So it's not coming in and taking what a researcher might need and then we never see them again.
Right, and I know there was some concerns about that too. Like I think Adriana had talked about this, and like what happens to that information, and like where does the research go? And sometimes I've heard in the past too, not just Kahnawake, but other Native communities, like they don't even have access to the research when it's in its finality. So I thought, well, this seems like really relevant and good and in our best interest.
Yeah, for sure. And we have those mechanisms are all outlined within the policy itself to say, for example, if the researcher is from the community or not from the community, it still needs to be shared. In terms of what's shareable, like when it comes to it's more like some data is definitely protected for as research goes, but when it comes to the results and sharing, those are things that can be celebrated, because part of the policy is looking at what are the strengths of our community, and those are the things that we want to highlight. What are our goals and visions and things we see for ourselves, and as a community growing and becoming stronger and raising up those next generations. So we want to have research is a tool to help us in those ways, to seek out those paths for ourselves. So definitely sharing that with the community is so important, to celebrate in those things and help us all see that same vision, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, that you put that so nicely. The hair on my body stands up, but it's because it's really good to hear like our own community members to talk about protecting that knowledge, and creating a process that will align with our goals and objectives as an organization and then outwards into the community. So it sounds like really amazing. And just to wrap it up really quickly, where does it go from here? So there's a lot of research even from the past. Would you guys look at archiving that or making it accessible to the community at some point?
It's definitely part of, we're looking at our website and how finding best ways to share out some of the results or different projects that are happening, because research is not just what we think of formal research where they're sitting in an office or at a desk or in a lab doing lab work. Right. It's research can be have many faces. It can be a project. It's different. Every case is different. And one thing I just want to touch on so what we really want to do is make it accessible through a website. Okay. It could be on the radio, and I think KSDPP provides a great example for us, and they were really instrumental, helping us, mentoring us through some tough spots in the policy, but they provided a really excellent framework for us to start with. And I want to note that KSDPP has really been integral worldwide, their policy for doing Ungwehongwe research or research with Ungwehongwe communities. So we're so lucky to have them not only say we could use theirs as a template, but they came in and they sat with us and they provided guidance, answered questions, and Alex even continues to sit on our advisory board today.
Nice. Yeah.
So even our advisory board, we have community members on there. And what's really nice to see in the policy too is that we bring to light the importance of Ungwehongwe ways of doing things and our knowledge systems. So that'll be really great to share too with the community, is the way that Ungwehongwe people, our people in the community, are using our ways of knowing, our ways of thinking and doing things, and applying that to ways of gathering knowledge, sharing knowledge, and taking that real strength-based approach for projects. And so really a lot of great stuff to share. So that's what I see coming down the line. Our website will be up where people should be able to click on and see a project, where it's at, what stage of the research process, and then to see what are the results and the outcomes. So, and in that as well is the KEC, the Education Center here in Kahnawake has always been looked to for as leaders in Ungwehongwe education. So this is a way where we can also help other communities who can look at some of the projects that we're doing and research we might have completed, so that it could help them if we're looking at language revitalization, curriculum development, teacher training, different things like that can really help other communities in this work.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it was a long time coming, definitely much needed. And I like the fact that you guys are taking this approach that also meets some of the demands of like living and working in the digital age, right? And how do we pass down or move forward with information, which is always sensitive, right? I know a lot of organizations deal with that too, especially when you're looking at Indigenous-based knowledge and ways of doing things, and there's a certain amount of protection around the way we think, and for all the right reasons, of course. So it sounds really exciting. And when we look at, when people think about policy, they're like, policy, more policy. But this is, when you delve into why it's needed and the importance and how it's going to be utilized in the community and benefit us, then it makes much more sense and people can really find a connection to it, right? So is there anything else you think is important to add?
I guess if there's people who are interested in doing research with our community or the education center in particular, we have now we have someone there that they could reach out. We didn't have a research coordinator in the past, and now we do. We have Zoyotu Adriana Paulette there, and so she could be reached out to and help guide you through and see if it would be a good fit to work with our community.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. And Sego, and welcome back. You're watching the KEC podcast, and of course we had some lovely women in studio joining us today, and we have one more person in studio with us. It's Waifu Whitebean, and she is currently a project coordinator for the KEC. And of course, you've been working with them for a couple of years, so you have a lot of projects under your belt already. And in terms of like developing this policy, you had some great colleagues I understand that you were working with. Tell me a little bit about things that were considered when you guys were developing the policy.
Well, one of the major things for us was making sure that the policy really represented who we are in Kahnawake. So not just in that kind of like, you see a lot of things come out today that are very pan-Indigenous. Mm-hmm. We wanted it to be specific to home, and we wanted it to be, we use this slogan of for us, by us, so that it really came from people from here. Who are Kahnawake Hronu. And also we happen to be, we have a number of graduate students at the KEC working on our curriculum team. So we have a lot of that background, that experience and knowledge that we get to bring, coupled with our lived experience being from here. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the things, is making sure we're really representing our people and we're thinking about our people. And making what's in the policy and the practice moving forward very accessible and inclusive of the community needs also.
Right. I love that word that you use, pan-Indigenous, because it's so true, you know, and like when you're looking at something that's very localized and going to have that local impact, you know, what was that process? What did that process kind of look like? Obviously, you worked with other people from within the community.
Mm-hmm. We so it started out. I've been working with the KEC off and on for about 5 years on different projects. So I did Skatania Yungoyota with Gateruni, and then during our time, you know, sharing an office, working together over the years, being grad students, we said, you know, we need ethics policies here. We need protocols. And now that we understand what research is and how powerful it is, we had just those conversations. And Gateruni had said, you know, she was thinking about really initiating that process at the Ed Center. And we had a grad student from McGill who had approached the KEC and offered, you know, said in any way that I can help, and wanted to be part of, you know, working on this policy. And so it finally came to be over the pandemic, just I guess because we found that a lot of the things we had going on with our project work were kind of stalled because of the schools closing. So we put some time and energy and thought into, you know, let's work on the policy. This is something we can contribute right now. We can, you know, still use our time effectively. And so we kick things off, and the student that we worked with her name is Daniela.
Yeah,
Berling.
she mentioned that too.
Yeah. So she was a big part of that initial process. And so that's like kind of how we started everything up, just starting from conversations, but recognizing that there was a need, there was a need in the community and in the ed system, and that how, you know, research it's a powerful tool. So whether, you know, people want it or not, or fully understand what it is, it's happening. Happens in the community. There's a lot of research dollars, and you know, these kind of studies that come out are powerful and can have an impact. So we just wanted to make sure that we're harnessing that, and then on the other side of it is we're backing and supporting our students, our own Ungwehongwai researchers from the community. So enabling them and to get things done. And that's one of the other things we realized, Gateruni and I as students, and some of the others in our office who are grad students, that we also want that community input, and we want to be held accountable, and we understand that harms can be done when research is done. So we said that needs to be there too, that aspect of, if you're from the community, you have somewhere to go. Because currently what was happening, we were just going to organizations and saying, can you write me a letter of support, and then offering for them to be involved in our research process and read our work, and
like a different approach.
Very different. And community boards people are often volunteers, and they don't necessarily have time. So we had the KSDPP as kind of a model of, they've been doing research for a very long time in the community-based research. So we had somewhere to start, so we included them from the beginning. Gateruni reached out and set those initial kind of things up, and so they were invited to be part of this process. So this is really it's education focused, and we're thinking as KEC staff about our students, about our kids and our families, who are the core of education in Kahnawake, and we move forward from there. Yeah,
it's really cool. She did talk about what was it again? Like the diabetes prevention. What's the acronym though? Yes, thank you. KSDPP. That's like another acronym to try to wrap my head around. But first of all, I love the fact that you guys are grad students, like a little bit of a drop for these ladies in their PhD program right now. That's amazing. But you kind of understand then firsthand, right? It gives you like front row seat to research and development and what goes into that. But when you have all these organizations coming on board supporting you, when you look outward into the future, what is the overall vision for the policy, and how will it impact Kahnawake like as a whole? I know right now it's still in the initial stages, right? But what do you see? Where do you see it going?
I think one of the important things that we wrote into the policy is this is the first draft, right? And we're hoping it'll evolve and grow and keep meeting the needs of the education system, because we have our own vision, our own collective vision, and then that can change over time, right? But what we want right now is to make sure that when we're doing research that involves the ed system, specifically because we don't necessarily have authority over research that's going on, say at KSCS or KSCBP and so on. Yeah. But we want to make sure we're protecting our students and our staff. And because working in education it's quite demanding of your time and your energy, we have limited resources and limited human resources, so we can't just be taking on a lot of research, or as much as we'd like to, we can't be inviting all kind of researchers in to do studies. So we're prioritizing community researchers first, and also making sure that the research that is getting done in the future meets our strategic goals. So these are projects and initiatives and things that we're exploring that further our goals and meet our needs. So that's one part of it. The other is, it's building capacity in the community for research and education. Putting out something like this, I think, because the KSDBP had representatives, we had Alex McCumber, that was part of our process. We put together a committee, and we invited a couple of different community members. We can give you the list of members, but having them part of that, I think they also started to think about the way they could broaden their own policy, and they're going to be revisiting theirs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because we wanted it to be, we talk about Handagari Wadekwa and we talk about Ziningwari Hoda and different things, and that being part of that holistic kind of vision of education and wanting our children, somebody, I just shared something on social media about your traditional knowledge is richer than a PhD. And then I reshared it and said, and I agree, and you can have both. So our kids don't have to choose. Yeah. And that's one of the things, having people who are Longhouse and from the community, and we have Ngwehwe scholars, we don't want to have to choose. Right. So we just want to provide more opportunity in the future to our youth, to our children, and we already have a very strong foundation of education here that was rooted in those early mission schools and Indian day schools, but now we took control, and we're I think this kind of the sky's the limit in terms of where it could go.
Yeah. I mean, it's so great that you mentioned that too, about like people being able to have both, right? Because we always want to leave space for people, individuals to pursue things and leave space for them to grow and change. And I feel like it's such an evolution of the education system, but also just community values, right? Let's just have space and time to grow and evolve as a community. But it sounds like such an exciting project. Even just talking to yourself and Daruni and Addie, I was super impressed with all of you. I think it's going to be a great policy, and I like that we can discuss it and have really people understand like what goes into creating this type of policy. Like I said to Daruni, I was like, when people hear policy, they're like, oh God, it's more red tape. But this truly does seem like it has such a different feel to it. Like it's got a good mission, the vision, but really it's for the community, right? And to help further some of our goals and objectives as an organization, and then education in the community. So super exciting. Do you have anything else you think is important to add before we close?
I think just to say, we're very thankful to everybody who was part of the process, all of our members on our committee. I continue on the committee to review, go through the ethics process. But I myself am going through as a student. And so that's important. We want to be held accountable to as researchers. And this is about empowering our community. Yeah. So that's the thing I hope people moving forward understand. And we wanted in terms of accessibility, we're talking about, helping the community understand the power of research, what research is, what goes on, and then and being open to that, questioning, keeping the community informed.
Yeah, that's a good point, because when you think of research, right, if you're not involved in it and it's not something that you really would be a part of your everyday life, you might just be like, oh, well, they're researching, they're poring over documents like Albert Einstein, you know, like that's what you think, like if you're not from that background. But like you said, there's so much more that goes into it, and then where does it go? We talked a little bit about that too earlier in the show, but sounds exciting. So good luck with everything. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share with the KEC, you can always do so. You can go to their website, contact either Wahesu, Gataruni, or Adi. I mean, everybody knows where they work at this point. And the number over there is 632-8770. I think so, yeah. But you can also just reach out to them over the KEC website. So thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the program, and we'll see you again real soon. Anigiwahi.